Welcome to another tutorial for clubs at NU. Today's tutorial is for a really commonly requested topic, which is check requisitions. Check requisitions are a request to withdraw funds from your account. And there's many reasons you might do this. You might be doing this to pay national dues. You might be doing this to give a charitable donation for a cause that your club supports. You might be doing this to buy supplies for a party or a fundraiser, all sorts of things. But the basic process is you need to know, how do I get money out of my club account? And it's important to note that we have a lot of processes in place to make sure your funds remain safe. So if you're ever wondering, gosh, why do I have to fill out this form or attach this documentation? Just remember that just as with your personal bank accounts, we need to make sure that the folks accessing these funds have permission to access them, again, to keep your funds safe. So what are you going to need to submit a check requisition? Well, you're going to need a few things, and you're going to find all of these pieces of information in the club resources. So here, it's got a slightly different name. I'm using Pride at NU's Blackboard container, the Club Resources folder. So in there, you're going to find copies of all the forms that you may need. Many of these are also on our nu.edu/CSEA website. I can open that up in a tab as well. So many of these forms are also here, but you can find them here in Blackboard. So there's a few things you're going to need. And to start, you're going to need your account application and agreement form. So this isn't something that you submit with the check requisition, but this is something that needs to be up to date and stored in your Blackboard container. And this is simply a form that says who is allowed to sign check requisitions, who has access to your funds. So anytime the people who are able to sign check requisitions changes, think of it like the account owners on your checking account. Anytime this changes, you need to submit an updated version of this. So you would simply say if you're establishing a new student organization or you're modifying an existing one. So if you're updating people, you just say modifying, name of your organization, and then you're going to give the name of all of the officers and advisor or advisors who are authorized to sign your checks, and then put their signatures here. And then we keep that on file so that if we get a request to release money from your account, we then go and check and make sure, yes, this person is permitted to withdraw money from this account. So that's not something you submit with the check requisition, but it is something that you would make sure you have on file. And then this is the actual check requisition form. And again, both of these, so there's the account authorization form I just showed, and then the check requisition form is here. So these are all in Blackboard for you. This form is a little unintuitive because we need to use the same form used by accounts payable across National University. So my apologies, it might be a little unintuitive, but this is because this is really designed for everybody in the university to use. You are welcome to fill out this form electronically, including your signatures. So if you know how to use Adobe Acrobat and you want to fill this in that way, great. Otherwise, you can fill it in by hand and scan it in, whatever you prefer. So what this is going to say is the day you submit this check requisition, this request for funds, who this check is being written to. So if it's the National Student Nursing Association, if it is Jane Smith, a club member, if it's Dr. So-and-so, your advisor, whomever is getting the money, that person's address, complete address, how much is the check for, when do you need it, if they've already made this expense and they really want the money as soon as possible, you can just put ASAP in there or today's date. We're going to process it as soon as possible anyway. In the description section, you can ignore this thing about Agiloft. That's a university system, but you will have to say what it's for. So you don't have to get too detailed, but it can be fundraiser supplies or national dues or whatever it is. If it's for some kind of event like a fundraiser or a party, the date. Note whether they're a current staff or faculty member. Note whether they're a former staff or faculty member. Note whether that person is a US citizen. And then let us know how you want them to get this check. Are they going to pick it up over at Torrey Pines? currently with COVID closures, I'm recording this in the middle of COVID closures, that's probably not an option, as is campus interoffice mail. So I would recommend just saying mail to the address above. If you have questions about that, of course, let me know at clubs@nu.edu or email me directly. So I would say mail to address above for now, but normally you can pick up a check at Torrey Pines, or it can be mailed via your interoffice mail. Put a phone number here for who we can contact if we have any questions or concerns here. You don't have to use the extension if you don't want to. Just a regular phone number is fine. And then here, this is saying this is for student organizations. That's what the business organization here is referring to. And you can just put with your account number, please put the 3-digit code that's associated with your student organization. So something like 805 or 812 or something to that effect. You can ignore the department or project number. And then here you're going to have a signature and a date. So there must be a signature and a date by a student officer. So again, this has to be somebody who's listed as an authorized signer on this form, and from an advisor. Okay, so I know this says budget authority and all of these senior titles, but for student organizations, you need a student officer and an advisor, 2 signatures with dates, and they need to match folks on this form. Okay, so that's your completed check requisition. Now, if this person doesn't have a W-9 on file with us, you will need to submit that as well. This does include someone's social security number, so you want to be really careful about handling this document and make sure that it's not passed on to anyone who doesn't need it. It's a pretty simple form. You only need to fill out the first page. There are additional pages that are just information. Again, this is available in your club resources. So you're going to have your account application form on file. You're going to fill out your check requisition, and you're going to have this W-9 on file. You only need to send this to us once. You don't need to send it repeatedly. Then you need 2 more things, okay? 2 more things. When you submit the check requisition to us, you're going to also need to include receipts. Please make sure they're legible. And if you've got multiple receipts, please tally them up for us. If you've just got 1 receipt, that's fine. But if you've got 6 receipts, please help us process these efficiently by also including some quick math where you show us that you add these up. And finally, you're going to need to submit minutes in which you show that this is an approved expense. So what you need to do is you need to show us that you discussed this expense in your club meeting, and that everyone agreed that this was something you wanted to spend money on. So this helps us be sure that not only was this an approved expense, but this was something you talked about with your whole student organization. This wasn't one person making a decision about how to spend group funds without consulting with other people. So you will need to submit meeting minutes. Highlighting is great, or just saying where the approval is located, because some meeting minutes are very long. And just show us the meeting where this expense was approved. And then once you've got all this documentation together, you're going to write an email to clubs. So it's clubs@nu. I'll show that. So clubs@nu. And you can call it whatever, but check requisition is great. And you might say something like, "Hi, Julia. Can you please process?" Or you could say, "Hi, clubs@nu." I usually read these, but sometimes other people do. Please process the attached check requisition. We have attached. And here I'm just going to list the documents. You don't need to say this, but just so this is clear to you. W-9 for the person receiving the check. Oh, I don't know what that's about. Meeting minutes showing that this expense was approved. Receipts. There are 3 receipts for $5 plus $6 plus $4 equals $15 total. And signed check requisition. Let me make sure I've got everything here. So I've got the signed check requisition, I've got the receipts, I've got the meeting minutes, and I've got the W-9. We have checked, and our account application form is up to date. So again, you don't need to write all this. I'm writing this out all here so that you can see again what needs to be submitted. So you'd email that in to clubs@nu.edu, and then hopefully within 2 business days, we do our really best to get back to you as soon as possible. You're going to get a receipt, and the header is going to say transaction number, let's say 205, submitted to accounts payable, and I'm going to say, Dear Pride at NU. Let's suppose this is Pride. Your request for a check requisition in the amount of $15 payable to Jane Goodall for meeting snacks has been submitted. So this is going to serve as your official confirmation, and this tracking number is going to be what I'm going to use on my end to make sure that everything was taken care of. So if you have any questions, if you experience any delays, please just do use this transaction number in the subject line so that we can easily locate the issue and find the check requisition in question. And yeah, we say to allow up to 30 business days for processing, but we do our very best to get things processed more quickly than that. So absolutely, if you have an urgent need for reimbursement, we know sometimes these expenses are really significant, and we don't want students to be on the hook for large sums of money while they're waiting for reimbursements. So we're going to do our best to process that for you as quickly as possible. So I hope that was a helpful tutorial. I will include some links to these resources in the tutorial notes. And as always, please email us at clubs@nu.edu if you have any questions. Thanks.